What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's Saturday night for me, at least. Some of you guys, it might already be Sunday or Monday, whenever you're watching this. We are going to do the eBay market update, look at some sealed items. We're going to look at some slabs that have sold also. And guys, I know you're going to look at the thumbnail and see that, manipulation, it's a huge topic right now, especially in the One Piece hobby. Are some of these auctions being manipulated? Are they not? Is anything real at this point? Should manga cards be worth $100? Because no one would be paying these prices. So in this video, I'm going to ask that you hold off on any comments about manipulation, because tomorrow I'm going to do a full video talking about the One Piece market and why I think a lot of those discussions are really just overblown in One Piece. And I think that the amount of stuff like that that goes on in the hobby is a lot less than people actually think. And yeah, we'll go into that tomorrow. So just hold off. There will be one thing I say referring to manipulation in this video, just because it's something that's very interesting. If I remember when I get to the listing, just because the person who sold something actually made a post on a Facebook group or whatever. But we'll get all into that. We'll start off with sealed product. First up, Romance Dawn, blue bottom. We always have to throw one of these in here, $3,000 or best offer. I threw this into 130 point. It did sell for 2,700. There are multiple sales over $3,000 though at this point. So this is actually a lower listing on average, I'd say, at this point on these boxes. Again, this is something that you could have bought for about $1,000, maybe even cheaper at the start of 2025. After that, we had a sealed case of Paramount War Cell, $3,000 of best offer from very small seller, and this sold for $3,000. So there wasn't a best offer taken here. And when we get to one of these listings too, and we look at 130 point, I am going to explain something, because using 130 point now, there's some weird things going on. And I'm just going to explain at least my theory about what's going on. You guys can either agree or disagree. But moving on, we had a case of OPO5 cell, $3,895. There were a lot of cases of OPO5 moving this week, moving basically all the way from like $3,300 up to around $4,000 USD at this point. So multiple cases are moving. If you're tuned into the hobby, this makes a ton of sense, especially considering the Alt Art Luffy, the stamped one, Ichiro is moving up like crazy. We'll see a couple sales of that card this week as well. And then also just the Gear 5 Luffy is moving up in price. So it makes sense why the sealed product is now moving, and that's a great sign for people who own that product. Now, moving into slabs, we're going to go in ascending order again. And by the way, guys, this week, there's going to be a card on the list that is by far the most expensive card I've ever seen in One Piece Cell, and might actually be the record at this point for the most expensive One Piece sale. So that will be at the end of the video. But Boa Hancock, this is the leader special from EBO2, and this sold for $1,025. I actually referenced this, I believe, in yesterday's video when we were doing the top 20 non-mangas. This card just sold in a PSA 10. This is the first copy, I believe, that's actually sold of this card in a PSA 10 so far, and over $1,000. So very expensive there for what that card is. After that, we have a Jewelry Bonnie manga, English, sold for $1,027. A lot of these are selling around $1,000 currently. After that, we have an interesting card here. This is a BGS 10 Black Label, Roronoa Zoro. I think this is from the Premium Bandai second anniversary set or whatever, $1,118 here. I can't imagine the pop on this is very high. I don't think it's the best artwork or anything, but because it's a low pop, I imagine that this is why it's fairly expensive. Now, moving on, we have the Luffy Gear 4 from OP11. This sold $1,175. If you guys have been watching these videos, this card was selling constantly around like $800, $850. We're now seeing that move up over $1,000 all day, every day at this point. And a lot of the Luffy's continue to move up. So keep a lookout on this. I don't really know where the ceiling is going to be on this card. I can't imagine it's going to get to like $2,000, $2,500. It might though. So stay tuned to these videos every single week, I guess, to see the madness unfold. The Dodgers promo here. This is interesting because it's autographed by Erica Schroeder, who I believe is the voice actor for Luffy in the anime. $1,200 USD. Correct me if I'm wrong too, but I'm pretty sure she is the voice actor. $1,200 USD. And I think there is going to be like a lot of these that show up later in the video that sold for like almost $5,000 or something. But moving on, Soga King manga, $1,500. This has been on the rise like a lot of the other mangas here. The Soga King, compared to a lot of the other mangas, does have a lower gem rate. So it kind of makes sense that even though Usopp's character isn't as popular compared to some of the other ones like Luffy, Zoro, etc., that this card would have a little bit larger premium on the PSA 10 just because compared to some of the other ones. There shouldn't be as many out there, or should be a little bit harder to get that PSA 10. After that, we have a Blackbeard from OP09. This sold for $1,531 in a PSA 10. We also have a Nami from PRBL1 manga, PSA 10, that sold for $1,560 and 26 cents USD. This, I think the last update was around 1,000, so this card has moved as well, like most of the other manga cards. We had the gold Blackbeard from OP12, sold on auction $1,625 USD. This is the English version. We have the Ace from Paramount War, $1,675. This one's actually slowed down a little bit. Kind of surprising with the moves on basically every other manga. I kind of expected this card to get maybe a little bit closer to $2,000 at this point, and I still think it could get there in the future, but it's not happening this week. After that, we had a card that has broken through $2,000. It's getting close to $3,000 at this point. The EBO2 Luffy manga card, the Gear 2 Luffy iconic pose, $2,600 coming directly from the PSA vault there. So huge sale on that card. Following that, we have the Nami. This, I believe, is a winner card from, I don't know, 2025 New Year event, I believe that says. $2,810 in a BGS 10 non-black label. Pretty good artwork. I'm sure it's not a super popular card either, in the sense that there isn't a ton of the copies out there. So very rare and difficult to get your hands on. Then we also have the Luffy Super Pre-Release winner in a PSA 10, $3,100. This card has been climbing like crazy. I think this is a fairly solid artwork too of Luffy. So when it comes to promo cards, I actually really like this one. I think this is a decent choice that you could go with. After that, we have another Luffy. This is a regional top 8 prize card in a BGS 10 non-black label that sold for $3,200 through ZNG Emporium. Following that, we have the 09 Luffy manga card that sold for $3,400. This is a huge sale. So this card was around like $1,000 for a long time. I think we even saw sales like $925, $950-ish dollars, the odd time below 4 digits. Now seeing it jump all the way up to around $3,400 is crazy. There were a couple lower sales on this card too, but it is getting close to an average of like $3,000 over the past few sales there, which is mind-boggling. And again, guys, that's not going to be the most crazy sale you see on the list this week. But before we get to some of those crazy sales, we have the serialized Shanks that sold in a PSA 10, $3,550. This is the English version, I believe. After that, we have the lot of the Luffy Dodger promo, $4,775 for 5 of them, which comes out to less than $1,000 a piece, which I think is, honestly, with how things are moving, probably going to be a fairly good deal when we look back on this in a few months from now. But after that, we had a BGS 10 black label alternate art Ichiro Oda stamped Luffy from OP05. This is the Japanese version, $6,000 here. A crazy sale. I think the English version, the last one we saw in a black label, sold for $20,000, I think, $19,999, something like that. So if you want to collect these cards and you can't shell out the price for English, just go for the Japanese copies, guys. They're always going to be cheaper. It makes sense because less people want to collect Japanese. And I think if you are just a true fan, you want it for your collection, it's not for investment purposes, always go for that product, right? Because it's basically the same card, just the writing on it is different, which again, that shouldn't be super important if you're buying it for your collection. But hey, you guys do what you want. Now, after that, we have the Luffy from Romance Dawn. This is the alt art leader. This is the pre-errata version, though, I believe. At least it's titled that. This sold for $10,000 or best offer. I threw this into 130 point, and it sold for $6,000 USD, which is a massive sale on this card. I think this was going for, again, you can see here, September 17th, the prior sale, 2,500 USD. We basically doubled price in a couple weeks, like a lot of other things. After that, we have another one of the Luffys, except in English this time, BGS 10 non-black label, $6,700 or best offer. Threw it into 130.6,000 USD, which is not going to be the most expensive sale you see on this card this week, but it is moving up there. And I think this is probably going to be closer to the average price moving forward. I think one of these sales that you'll see here in a second is an outlier, but $6,000 does seem like a reasonable price to pay for this card at this point. We also had a Gold Roger sell this week. Only one, I believe, that I could find. PSA 10 sold for $8,982.50 Canadian or best offer. I threw this into 130 point. Now this is where things get interesting And you're gonna have to follow my theory here for a second. So when I put this into 130 point, you can see it's scratched out and it says 8,250 USD. Now, what I think is going on here, because 130 point did some updates to how their website works or whatever, I think that they don't have their currencies correct at this point, and this should actually be CAD. And again, it would make perfect sense because if you come here and look, 82.50 Canadian would be below like 89.80 Canadian. It would seem like a reasonable best offer to be taken. So that's what I think is going on. I think that they meant to say 8,250 Canadian, which would be approximately 5,900 USD, somewhere between 5,900 and 6 grand USD. So it makes sense to me, at least. You guys can let me know in the comments down below what you think. But that was the first time I kind of had a run-in with that on 130 point. I don't think it's the last time either. When we get to this last card, you'll see here in a second that that's kind of why I think that's what's going on. But after that, we have a lot of the two Luffys in English from OP11. We have the gold version and the silver version. I believe these are both PSA 10s, and these sold for $7,000 USD collective, and that is an absolute monster sale. But speaking of monster sales, this is where things get interesting. We have a PSA 10 version of the Gear 5 Luffy from OP05, $7,500 USD, guys. This was a card that was between $4,500 and $4,800 USD for a very long period of time, now breaking through to a higher price point. We also have a very interesting sale here, BGS 10 Black Label of the OP11 Luffy, Japanese version, $7,600 through ZNG Emporium for the Japanese version. That's crazy expensive for a Japanese manga card. We also have another one of the Gear 5 Luffy, $7,800. That's not even going to be the highest sale you see on this card this week. And this is where things get interesting. So the Probstein auctions, and we're going to talk about this more tomorrow in terms of manipulation, if this is or isn't. And we're going to talk about the consequences of what's going on in the hobby. But for now, we have the Probstein auction that did sell $11,650 for the Ichiroda stamped card, the Luffy in English. So massive sale there, whether it's legit or not. We'll leave that to discussion tomorrow. We have a BGS 10 Black Label Zoro. This, I believe, is the prize card top 16 in Japanese, $12,000 or best offer. I threw it into 130 point, and it did indeed sell for $12,000. So no best offer taken there. And then after that, another one of these auctions we'll talk about tomorrow, $12,100 for the Gear 5 Luffy from OP05 in a PSA 10. So massive, massive sales on these two cards here, and hold on to those for the conversation tomorrow. And finally, guys, this is by far the most expensive One Piece card I've seen sell in my time in the hobby, and it might be the top card to ever sell in One Piece in terms of price. Like, I don't think there's something larger than this. If there is, you can let me know in the comments down below. But here it is. We have a BGS 10 Black Label serialized Luffy card. This is the champion prize promo, whatever it is, and it's out of 700, I believe. So there's not a ton of these out there in the world. And again, this is a Black Label. I don't know what the pop on this is for certain, but Slab Sharks, they're a pretty reputable consignment service up here in Canada. They say it's pop 14. So that might be accurate, might not be. Either way, this card is clearly very rare in a Black Label, and this sold for $75,000 Canadian or best offer. And this, again, is where things kind of line up with what I'm thinking is going on 130 point. But if you guys have info, let me know. When I go to 130 point and check, it says $75,000 USD. So again, I think that this actually just sold for full asking price. And instead of recognizing that this was in Canadian dollars, they're recognizing that it's USD. So I think this actually sold for 75,000 Canadian, which would be converted about $53,825 USD. We were seeing this in a PSA 10, so not a BGS 10 Black Label. PSA 10 was going for about $14,000, $12,000, $13,000, in that range. I think it would make sense, because the pop of this is so low, that it is selling around $50,000, $55,000 USD. But that's gonna be it for the video. You guys let me know in the comment section down below what you think about some of these auctions. What is going on? What was your favorite sale? Mine has to be this Luffy, just because it's crazy expensive. I don't know the next time we're gonna see a card like this show up. Very, very rare, very awesome to see. And also, we will be back tomorrow to talk about manipulation in this hobby. If you agree or disagree, that'll be a conversation for tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you did get some value out of this, I'd really appreciate if you'd leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps out a ton. Leave a comment down below for the algorithm. Also, if you are shopping eBay, TCG Player, Hobbiesville, Cardboard Hero, I have affiliate links down below. They're free and easy to use. All you have to do is click on it before you do your shopping. I get a small percentage of the sale at no extra cost to you, so it's a free and easy way to support me continuing to make these videos for you guys. But with all that said, again, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you're having a great weekend. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.